If you're in the market for a Neo Geo board, one of the first things you're going to want to do is check out the onboard rechargeable battery. As the years go on, these things tend to leak, causing temporary or even permanent damage to the PCB board. Here I'm removing the back 3 screws of the hard shell, revealing a pair of PCBs connected by a series of 4 sandwich connectors. Use a 5mm socket to stabilize the nut while unscrewing each bolt. Now you can carefully pull the sandwich connectors apart. This particular board had a couple screws going through pillars in the center of the board. If yours happens to have this, go ahead and release those as well. If your unit has never had its battery replaced, you'll find an orange and white coin-shaped battery. On the underside, there's a protective piece of cardboard. Using a knife, very carefully pry away the cardboard, making sure not to cut any leads on the PCB. The battery's negative lead is only about an inch in, so go ahead and bend back through cardboard to expose that lead. Back to the top of the board, heat up the solder to release the positive end. As a matter of ease, remove some of the surface glue so that the battery freely rocks. Returning to the back of the board, using a soldering iron, heat up the solder while simultaneously pulling the battery from the front end. Here I use a solder sucker and some solder wick just to clean the negative terminal of the board. Using a multimeter, I test the new battery and it looks really good. Then I test the old battery and find out that it just doesn't have much juice anymore. So predictably, it needed to be replaced. Now you'll notice the new battery is not the same shape as the old battery, and that's okay, but what we'll need to do is bend the leads to make it fit properly. If you flatten out the positive lead and initially flatten out but then bend down the negative lead, it should fit pretty well. From the underside, heat the solder and poke the negative lead of the battery through the board. Now before you go any further, sandwich the board back together to see if there's enough clearance above the battery or if it needs to be repositioned. When satisfied with the position, go ahead and solder the positive end of the battery. Using a multimeter, it looks like we have a really good connection. Now I've never claimed to be a soldering artist, so I want to connect the board and make sure everything works before cleaning things up and putting it all back together. As always, if the video helped you out, click the like button, and if you want to see me do more videos similar to this, click subscribe. We'll shut it all off. After letting it sit for a couple minutes unplugged, we'll check to see if the time and the date have been saved. And she kept the date. Excellent. Now this concludes the battery replacement portion of the video, but I wanted to throw in as an added bonus how to do some additional housekeeping or maintenance with your MVS board. Everybody has their preferences, but I like to use a pink eraser to clean the broad or more exposed connectors. As you can see, my board has 3 screws that are beginning to rust or have really rusted, and I'm going to replace those with some nice new ones. I want to throw a link up because this guy on YouTube really had a great idea to help out with some of the connectors. Check out his video, make sure to show him a little love, because he really had a good idea. Back in the days of the original Nintendo, Naki made these cleaning systems, and what you do is you tear them apart and use the board that's inside on your Neo Geo machine. What I did is coat the surface with Deoxit to remove some of that oxidation, and then simply work the board in and out of the connectors. If your board is anything like mine, you'll immediately notice black debris starts to solubilize and come up. Pull that out, rub it off, and continue going until you have a relatively clean connector. I ended up having to make a number of passes in order to get it into the shape that I wanted. And then as a final round, I wiped off the Deoxit and used the dry cleaning system to pull out more of that solubilized oxidation. When you're finished, reassemble for the final test. We kept the date. Thanks for watching.